Okay, welcome everyone to the Virtual College Exploration for all North Carolina and South Carolina students, sponsored by the Carolina Association of College Registrars and Admissions Officers and ScribeScan. Thank you for joining us today. A few housekeeping announcements just before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type in any questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and your microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions that is happening. So be sure to check out the full schedule at CACRAO.org, which is CACRO.org. And this presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week on the same CACRAO.org website. I'll now turn it over to Mandy that will start the presentation.
All right, thank you so much, Corinne. I am going to share my screen as we launch into our discussion today about private versus public. So students and families, we're really thankful that you are taking the time out today to really explore private universities. Our goal in today's workshop is to really encourage your students, and those of you that are students on here, to look at and apply to private institutions, really because of the advantages that I believe you're going to understand at the end of this presentation, that the private school education is full of advantages to help you be more successful on your career pathway after graduation. I'm going to introduce, each of us is going to introduce ourselves today that's on the panel. So I'll start. We'll kind of jump a little bit out of order since I'm already chatting and not muted. But my name is Mandy Hines. I am the Eastern North Carolina admissions representative with Johnson & Wales University. Johnson & Wales University has two campuses, one in Providence, Rhode Island, and one in Uptown Charlotte, which most of our North Carolina students are interested in. We are a private institution, and the large focus of all of our programs is on experiential education and work-based learning. I'll turn it over to Analee.
Hi, everybody. My name is Analee Henley. I'm the Senior Admissions Counselor for High Point University. I work with primarily Eastern North Carolina students. We have two other counselors that focus on Western North Carolina, Central North Carolina, and then an admissions counselor that works for our South Carolina population. High Point University is a small private liberal arts university located in the Triad, so Central North Carolina. We have an undergraduate enrollment of about 4,600, and our main focus is the Premier Life Skills University. We want students to be able to take what they've learned in the textbook and put it in real world practices so you are fully prepared for that world that comes after college. Thank you so much for being here today. I will be managing the chat, so feel free to put in all of your questions, and then we will answer as we go along, and then save the best for last and answer them together.
Hi everyone, I am Grace Sugg. I'm Associate Director of Admissions at Meredith College, and we are located in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I work with students in Eastern North Carolina, some of the schools in the Raleigh area, and students from the state of California. And so Meredith has about 2,000 students total. So inside the larger city of Raleigh, you find that very tight-knit community, very personalized experience that is a trademark of a small private institution. But we have about 80 different programs between our majors, minors, and concentrations. And so students really applying those experiences and focusing on their strengths through our Strong Points program. So helping students to think about what their strengths are and then how they can apply those in academics, outside the classroom experientially, financially also, and then career-wise. So really helping them to be a little more intentional about what they want their college experience to be, and then how that prepares them beyond that as well.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Anderson. I'm an admissions counselor at North Carolina Wesleyan College. We are located in Rocky Mount, so it's a very small town. Typically, I handle the surrounding counties, so like Wilton, Nash, obviously, Franklin, places like that, and then the western parts of Carolina. Wesleyan has about 1,100 traditional students, and then 30 majors and about 32 minors, and each year we're adding more. With the 1,100 students, we have an 18-to-1 student ratio with our faculty, so that really allows a great connection. And then in addition to that, we also have several like clubs on campus, as well as men's sports, women's sports. We are D3, so we don't give out athletic scholarships, but we make up for that in academics.
All right, well, we will jump right in. We wanted to talk today first about financial aid and scholarship opportunities for private schools. We know that financial aid, scholarships, affording college is a huge factor in a college decision and a really important thing on the minds of everyone. And so often in our conversations with students about a private school, we run into things from students hearing that maybe the cost of an education is the reason that keeps them from considering a private school. So first and foremost, we want you to know that a private college education is affordable. And so looking at the number of students attending schools in North Carolina, so the North Carolina Independent Colleges and Universities, or NCICU, you'll see there for short, 90% of those students attending those private colleges in North Carolina are receiving financial aid. And so often that sticker price or the published price that you might see on a school's website for tuition or room and board is actually quite different than what a student individually may end up paying, or what a student's family may end up paying at the end of the day. And so we, nationally looking at research here that about half of students, about 50% of students end up ruling out a college because of the sticker price. So thinking that it's too expensive without really exploring. So we want to encourage you to go beyond that initial thought, know that there are a lot of resources to help with that, and really explore what a college can offer you in terms of a private school education. And with private colleges, often we have a lot of resources to help you in funding that. We know that funding your education is important. It's important to us. We want to partner with you and provide those institutional resources that we can. So on average, the amount of scholarships and grants that these students attending private schools are receiving actually exceeds the total federal funds that they might be receiving in North Carolina. And then also that would be the same case looking nationally, about 83% of students being awarded those institutional grants nationally. And that average amount being about $21,000, slightly over that, for an average incoming first-year student attending one of those schools. So bear with that message, really saying that we're committed to your education, and that is something that's really important to us. And so in thinking about that, there are many different types of aid available to you. So there are grants, there are scholarships coming from the individual schools, outside resources, loans, work-study programs. Just one example of many, the North Carolina Need-Based Scholarship can be a great resource for a lot of students in attending private schools. So a lot of different types of resources out there. I did want to take a minute just to talk about the topic of loans, because we know that there can be a lot of hesitation or reservation around loans. And so just really encouraging you to think about that as actually being a very sound, feasible option for funding an undergraduate education. These are low interest student loans. A lot of times the things that we hear in the media are not an accurate depiction of the true story. Some of the astronomical figures that we hear of students ending up with those figures of debt, it's really not what the case is. It's really a very small percentage of students. And sometimes the issue comes when students actually end up taking more out than they really need to fund their education. So just wanted to put that out there to really pay attention to the facts, talk with the institutions that you're considering, get all the facts about the possibility of some of these student loans as being a good way to fund a portion of your education. And then in terms of thinking about the steps to make sure that you're informed about all of these great resources, the first step is often applying for admission. So again, just encouraging you to take that step, work through that process, because all of us represented here today, so High Point, Wesleyan, Johnson Wales, and Meredith all have lots of institutional funds that we want to provide with you. And many times that comes with just applying for admission and getting that first notification, kind of getting a glimpse of what might be available to you. Many of us have scholarships that we award to you at the time of admission, just with your application for admission serving as that application review. So nothing really separate that you need to do there. Then that next really important step would be to complete the FAFSA, so the free application for federal student aid. Completing that, submitting it to your schools is a really important step in making sure that you found out about all of the aid options available to you. So a lot of these that have been listed here. Certainly, we encourage you to apply for as many outside scholarships as possible. There's just very few resources listed there on the slide with websites, but a lot of our institutions have other resources listed on our websites and are happy to help point you there as well. And then perhaps most importantly, keep in contact with the admissions and financial aid offices. We want to help you. We're sitting here waiting and wanting to talk to you. We want to help you with the FAFSA. We want to answer questions about what are the scholarship opportunities that are available. We want to make sure that you have all of that information. So definitely keep in contact with us through the process. And then finally, in terms of the financial aspect, I want to take a second to think about really the value of the education that you're receiving. You know, this is a really important investment in your future. And so we'll talk about some outcomes in a few slides with some of the other information we'll share, but students are more likely to graduate in 4 years from a private institution. So thinking about the financial implications of that, of paying just for 4 years instead of for 5 or 6, and then the faster time that you're getting to start a job and to start earning that income with those really great job placements that you're getting from these schools. So really, you taking some time to think about the outcomes of what you're getting, you know, how all of those factors are playing into your education, and then knowing that there are a lot of really wonderful financial resources to help you and support you in making this a good option for you. So I'll go ahead and turn it over now to our next topic.
So the second advantage of a private education over a public education is the advantage of mentorship. So mentorship looks different on every college campus, but they all have one really important goal, and that is to prepare you for life that comes after graduation. So some of these mentorships look like smaller class sizes, smaller student to faculty ratio. This means that these faculty members, they know your name, they know your strengths and weaknesses in the classroom, and they can say, hey, Grace, I see that you're struggling in this chapter. How can I help? Can you come to my office hours? Do I need to refer you to tutoring? What can we do to get you better and have your classes and your grades improve? One advantage is easy access to advisors. So where at larger public institutions, they have promised to develop 20,000 plus students, where at smaller private liberal arts universities, we only have to develop 4,600 students or 5,000 students or 1,000 students. So the advisors are there to really figure out, what do you want to do with your 4-year academic plan and how do you live that out? They think about your strengths and your weaknesses, your passions, your aptitude. They are able to develop what career is going to be a good fit for you. And then moving forward, able to help you figure out, do you like your classes? Do you not? How can we tweak this to make college and your classes more enjoyable? For someone that went to a large public university and I changed my major 5 times, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and my advisor was so busy with so many other students, I felt really bad, or I felt a little guilty going to her all the time for these questions. A lot of advisors at smaller liberal arts universities are going to just be responsible for advising. They're not going to have a teaching load. So they really have time to dedicate to their students. You also have easier access to career and professional development, internship opportunities, undergraduate research, study abroad. These are all really great opportunities for you to connect with these individual offices, learn how to build a resume, learn how to use LinkedIn, learn how to network. These internships, a lot of smaller universities are going to use their own network of alumni and parents and students and companies that have a really great partnership with these institutions. It's a lot easier to go into a job interview when you say, hey, you know, so-and-so, versus blindly applying on the internet and waiting to hear back. Another advantage to mentorship is easier access to tutoring services and writing centers. So instead of walking around on a large campus trying to figure out where you're going, these services will either come to you or you're able to access them a lot easier in a smaller setting. So what is mentorship and why is it so important? So there's 4 main reasons of having a mentor, and a mentor is someone who wants to see you move further than themselves. So the first importance of having a mentor is goal setting. So mentors assist college students in determining their career aspirations and work with students to achieve them. The second is networking. Mentors are often well known and respected in their field and community and connect students with other professionals, internships, and certain job opportunities. When this faculty member knows your name and knows that you love what you do and they can really hear your passions, they are more than happy to write a letter of recommendation to a master's program or a PhD program or to an employer that they have a great connection with, and that letter of recommendation goes a really long way. The third is broadening the scope of knowledge. So along with introducing students to professional and opportunities in their chosen fields, mentors give students new resources and new access to organizations that they would have never thought of. So again, that networking component comes into play. The fourth is job seeking and interview skills and job retention. So when you're feeling very overwhelmed in the job process and the interview process, your mentor can offer firsthand advice on how they or their previous graduates can stand out to potential employers. Trust me, you're about to go into college and develop for 4 years, but anybody can walk across a stage and get a diploma, but it's how do you set yourself apart from a market that is already saturated with thousands of other recent graduates. So it's all about having ways to differentiate yourself in the job market. The third advantage to mentorship on campus is counseling services. And we've all just gone through a really, really difficult year. There have been a lot of transition, a lot of changes, a lot of isolation, and some students don't handle online learning really well. Counseling services at a lot of private institutions are already involved in your cost of attendance, and it doesn't come out of your pocket. So counseling services strive to provide comprehensive developmental counseling services to all university students who may be experiencing any type of emotional, behavioral, or physiological concerns during college life. It's a huge transition, and you need all the help that you can get. And sometimes this is just a third-party, unbiased person listening to you and helping you develop and go through. Sometimes counseling services, they just triage and then they send you on to a professional, but it's there, it's obtainable, and it's easy to access. And I think that is the biggest advantage of a private institution, is just the access that you have to all of these advantages.
So the advantage number 3 of a private school versus a public college or university would be the intimate relationships with the faculty and staff compared to the students. So like we said earlier, most of these colleges on this panel, we have I have 1,000 on my school, they have a couple thousand. So like I said, we have like open door policies with our professors, at least we do at Wesleyan, and I would imagine at most of the other smaller colleges. What this means is professors do have office hours, just like bigger universities would. But our professors at like a private school are more likely to be in there, and they're able to help students if they just want to drop by. If they have a question about a homework assignment, they're not as busy or like maybe even as stressed out as a private professor would be, because they have so many other students and so much other stuff just to go through. So like I said, open door policies, they're more than willing to discuss assignments or just personal things that are going on in students' lives, which I really appreciated because I am an alumni of Wesleyan. So I really got to see how that worked one-on-one with my professors, especially my freshman year when I was trying to just get, acquainted with the college experience. It's been mentioned before, but at private colleges, students are more known by name instead of just a number in classes. With private colleges, you were likely to have, at least at Wesleyan, I can speak personally, about 20 to 25 people, maybe a max of 30 or 35. And so that, honestly, like, you're able to know them on a personal level. They will know you. It's been mentioned before, like I said in this panel, but they'll be able to tell when you're struggling with something, and they can pull you aside, or they'll just email you after because they know you by name. So they can just be like, hey, hey, Analee, like I saw that maybe you just weren't in a great mood today. Like, is everything okay? Another thing is 98% of Wesleyan's faculty has practical experience in the areas that they teach. So I know personally for like the criminal justice field, most of them are either prosecutors or law enforcement. And so that really creates connections for internships, which is another great thing about private colleges versus public, because you have that connection with your professor already, and they have the connection with places around, like for say Nash County, they might know places to get you in. And of course, internships can lead to careers. Like I said, faculty professors, they're able to get to know students on a more personal level, and this can really aid in the recommendation letter part of your college. Whether you're trying to go to a master's program, PhD, or maybe a job right after college, they're more likely to write those recommendation letters, and those recommendation letters will be more in depth because they actually have a personal connection with you instead of just from a public university where it's kind of just more of a generic, like, oh yes, it was a good student, but they don't really know that 100% for sure.
Excellent. Thanks, Ashley. We've had so many great advantages. I'm going to launch into the last one that our panel kind of put together, and you may find some very unique advantages to specific private universities that you are looking at as you do your college exploration process. But the really final advantage that we want to touch on today is the opportunities and outcomes. So the opportunities you have available to you and the outcomes towards the end of your actual graduation. When you think about the diversity on a campus that is a private school, now all of us on this panel have anywhere between 1,000 to 8,000 students on our campus. But because of the lack of in-state tuition versus out-of-state tuition in the private realm, you get students looking at private universities from all over the globe, across the United States, different countries, most private universities. And again, what we're talking about today is in generalities, but most private schools, it's just one tuition price. It's not North Carolina residents versus other residents from other states. So that's why you see more geographical diversity in a private school. I'm an alumni of a private college. In fact, I graduated from Meredith College. Both of my children went to private college universities, and now working for a private university, I know this to be true from my own experience. Now, what does that mean? So how does that translate? Well, by having a geographically diverse student body, it allows you for more opportunities outside of your bubble. So if your dreams are to connect with alumni in California or New York or Florida or London or the Caribbean or wherever it is that you dream of going, it is more likely for you to have those connections in a private setting where you have a diverse student body. As I was suggesting with the diversity, it gives you a greater opportunity to network. Now, you may not have a really large LinkedIn group of connections yet that you follow, but you are all of you are very savvy to the idea of networking. You're looking for followers on Instagram or friends on Facebook or contacts through Twitter. That's networking. And when you get to college and you begin networking, your networking then is with business professionals. Analee touched on this from High Point, the importance of networking through some of those social media platforms. But in a smaller college or university like we're talking about today, oftentimes you have those professionals on your campus. You have those professionals through your faculty relationships. And so this not only gives you more job opportunities, but also gives you professional growth. At Johnson & Wales, our career outcome rate is 97.7%. That means almost all of our graduates are working in their field. That doesn't just happen by accident. That happens by internships and networking. And because we're talking about private schools, the other schools on this panel probably have very, very similar outcome rates, which we're going to show you a table here in just a moment to allude to that. The graduation rate we've already mentioned. You are more likely to graduate on time in a private school versus a public school. And that happens for a variety of reasons. Again, as Analee alluded, oftentimes students in public schools, public universities, they don't have an advisor to really help keep them on track every step of the way. So you may know of students who they graduated in 5 years from UNCW, or it took them 6 years to graduate from ECU. And that's not usually because they haven't used their time wisely, but it's often because there's no academic advisor in that large university setting that can help to guide the student. That's why the graduation rate is what it is. I think that statistic is extremely startling. Again, it's an average. It's not all students. I will suggest to you that those of you students who are participating in dual enrollment or career and college promise, I just want to make a note that those credits that you're taking while you're in high school don't just transfer to the UNC system or the community college. They transfer to private schools as well. So keep in mind that those credits, yes, you can use them if you want to go to your local school, but don't sell yourself short. Those credits can help save you money at private institutions as well. So I know we hadn't hit on that yet, but I wanted to be sure that everyone listening today understood that. I think we are going to take a time here for you to post your questions. Something that I also feel like is worth mentioning before I turn it back to Grace for any wrap up. I'm sure everyone that's listening today is aware of the challenges that large public schools have had in light of COVID and safety protocols that they've been trying to manage on campus. I personally believe that this is probably the single biggest reason why you should consider a private school at this point in time. The reason being that in these private institutions where the population is a little bit smaller, and you've got a large support system from your faculty to academic advisors to your admissions counselors, you have the potential for being able to stay on campus in an environment where there are a lot more boundaries and guardrails to keep you safe. And so I think this is absolutely the greatest time for you to consider applying to a private institution. So Grace, I know you started us off. Is there anything that we've left off that we want to go back and kind of regroup on or go circulate back to?
I think we've touched on everything, but I think just to leave everyone with the idea that we hope this afternoon that we've conveyed a sense of the advantages of private schools and really at the heart of everything, why it could be the right choice for you as an individual student. So, thinking about your college search and finding the best fit for you is really the most important thing. And so helping you to consider that could be a private institution. And so really encouraging you to consider all aspects of a private institution and what it has to offer, from programs to the community offerings to the outcomes and then to the scholarship opportunities, to really go through the process, consider it, talk with us, gather the information you need, and then use all of that information to make the decision about the value of what's best for you, both in terms of a living and a learning environment that's going to be the best place for you over the next few years.
Another advantage that I meant to talk about in mentorship, but it slipped my mind, was we are all admissions counselors at our institutions. And another advantage of applying to a small private institution is we have certain geographic territories that we manage. So we really get to know our students. We are able to advocate for your admissions to the university a lot easier than a large public university. So we really get to know our students. And just because I work at High Point University doesn't mean I don't have a vast knowledge of other institutions in the area. My job is to be an admissions counselor. I am to counsel you throughout this admissions process. I just happen to work at High Point. So there is so many public and private school systems within North Carolina. We are very, very lucky to have the schools that we do. You will find the best fit for you. You utilize your admissions counselors, you utilize the faculty and staff on those campuses, and you will feel like you're at home. So don't feel nervous to reach out to us. That's what we're here for. That's what we love doing. We are all supposed to be traveling right now in a pre-COVID world. We miss interacting with our students. So you would actually be doing us a huge favor if you emailed us or called us. Don't forget to put any questions that you have in the chat box. That's what we'll use the remaining 15 minutes for. And it looks like we just had a question come in. What would you advise for listening juniors to do at this moment, since they are just beginning to make their lists and aren't choosing their top choices just yet? Who wants to tackle that one?
I'll tackle that one, I think, Analee, because that's actually a really great question. You're right. These panels are not designed just for seniors. I think most of us would counsel you as juniors and sophomores, for that matter. At this point, you should begin identifying the schools that you'd like to visit. So this is the perfect time for you to either do a virtual visit from home, or if the campus is open, to do a live on-campus tour. Our campus is open. I believe High Point is open. Is Meredith open yet, Grace, for on-campus tours?
Yes, they are.
And Wesleyan as well, Ashley? Yeah, so see, another advantage to private schools, the private school campuses, because we're smaller, most of the time we can open for tours. So to all my juniors that are watching, I would suggest that you identify schools to visit and register for a campus tour. Because as Analee alluded to, feeling like home, walking on that campus, you will know, should I keep this school on the list or should I not? I think that to me is one of the best action steps for juniors. Does anybody have anything to add?
I would just say, you know, as you're looking to do that, if at this moment you feel like you're not able to do a visit, to at the very least reach out, as Analee mentioned, reach out and connect with your admissions counselor, and at least, you know, start a conversation about what you might be interested in, because that can really help you to collect some more specific information about your interest, what you might be looking for, rather than just kind of viewing a website or taking a, you know, kind of a virtual tour on your own on the website. Really talking to a person there, and we might be able to get you connected with a faculty member or a student to have that conversation. If at this moment you're not able to make it to campus, at least doing that and having those connection points can be extremely beneficial as you're kind of making that list at this point.
And when you do have the opportunity to visit campuses, since we are targeting both North Carolina and South Carolina students, if you're interested in going out of state, when you go to campus, ask your parents or your guardian if you can drive to that visit, because come sophomore to senior year, you're going to be driving home during every break, and it might be a long distance. You might not feel comfortable driving 4 to 5 hours home. If you're interested in going to school in the mountains, go visit on a snow day, because you're still required to go to class when it snows. If you're interested in going to school at the beach, go when it rains, because you're still going to have to walk to class when it rains. When you're on campus, if you have the opportunity, eat the food while you're there. Ask if you can dine in one of their dining locations. It's a really great way to see student life in a very organic fashion, but it's also a really great way to see if you enjoy the food, because you're going to be eating this food every single day for 4 years. I hope you like it. And if you don't, it can really make your 4 years go very, very, very slow. All of us has, in this slide, we have our contact information here, and we have our institutional information sessions listed. So if you want to learn more about any of our individual sessions, please, please, please register and attend to learn more about our specific institutions. And we have another question. Do you think your institutions will remain test optional for years 2022 and plus? It's a really hard to say right now. We don't know what's going to happen with testing centers and the ACT and SAT coming forward. But right now, I know my institution is Johnson & Wales test optional this year. Meredith?
Johnson & Wales is actually test optional every year. At Johnson & Wales, we take your application and your transcript to evaluate you as a student. You can submit your scores to be useful towards merit scholarships that we might award at acceptance, but we have always been and will remain test optional.
Yes, same here. We have been test optional for a few years now, but this is the first year that we are both test optional for admissions and merit-based scholarships. And if you're an applying senior this year, this is really your year to shine, because you're going to be hearing a lot about test optional and a lot of of universities are even going to go test blind, where they are not even going to consider test scores. So if you're not a good test taker like myself, this is your year to really show your strengths besides a standardized test that's made for everyone.
At this point, Meredith, is test optional for this upcoming year. And as Analee kind of alluded to, we will continue to monitor situations and have conversations around this for making decisions for the future.
Yeah, we're the same at Wesleyan as well. I've heard talk that we might continue test optional after 2021. So honestly, for those students that kind of struggle with test taking, I honestly really hope so, because I think that just makes it a lot easier, just more simple for everybody. But as of right now, it's just for this coming year at Wesleyan.
We have one question: how are evaluations for merit-based scholarships different from those at public institutions? And I will say that the biggest difference is the holistic perspective. I know at High Point University, we award students based off of their unweighted GPA and test scores. If they decide to submit them, they receive an initial amount, and then they come back to interview to increase their awards. And so it's a two-step process where we really get to know the student before we award them their full merit potential. So we don't want to just know that you got all A's or that you got a C in math. We want to know, what are your leadership skills? What do you have, a growth or fixed mindset? What do you do for fun? Why did you choose biology? We really want to get to know you as a particular student.
It's been my experience as well that the private institutions do award the merit-based scholarships based right at the same time as acceptance. And then again, additional awards on top of that, like my colleagues have alluded to with interview process and things like that. The public universities, here's the difference. Most public universities do not award scholarships at the time of acceptance. You will get a letter that says, congratulations, you've been accepted. That's it. Whereas at Johnson & Wales and these other institutions, your letter says, congratulations, you've been accepted and you've been awarded blah, 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 blah. And that, I think, is what Grace was trying to point out, especially in the beginning where we were talking about that a private school education is affordable. Because if you only look at that sticker price, you're not really comparing apples to apples. So it's been my experience that the public universities do not award the same level near what a private university is going to award you.
And tomorrow evening, myself, William Peace University, and St. Andrews University is hosting a panel on sticker price versus actual cost, if you want to learn more information about that. Just a selfish plug.
No, it's a great thing, because on the surface, you would say, well, why would anybody go? If you're just looking at finances, why would anybody go to a private school when a public school seems to appear to cost less? And I'm sure some of you have heard, you get what you pay for. Today, we've outlined a bunch of advantages to being in private school, a private education. So it's definitely something to look at the advantages in its entirety and not just that dollar amount.
We have one question: what kind of student do you think would be most proficient at your institution?
Wow.
I think for a small university, it's someone who wants to be a part of a community and have that community-like feel when you're on campus. If you don't want to get involved, or if you just kind of want to be a wallflower, that's perfectly okay. That is your experience at your university. But at a small campus, it's really hard to do that, because you're going to get involved in so many different organizations. You have ample opportunities to really, it's all about thriving. So,
Right, and I would say going off of that and kind of an extension of that, someone who wants to be really engaged in their education and make those connections that we've spoken about. You know, someone who wants to be known by their professor, not just someone who's looking to kind of fade into the crowd, but you want to really have those opportunities to form great relationships with your mentors, get to have those great conversations. You know, someone who wants to be in a place where someone's going to notice if you aren't in class, or if you're not participating in something, or, you know, noticing if something seems a little off on one day, and really who's receptive to reaching out to those resources and open to the people who want to help you and support you. So I would say, you know, kind of an extension of wanting to be involved, just kind of also wanting to be engaged at that level in the classroom and in all of the different opportunities across campus to form those relationships.
I think because there's so much diversity in the private school environment compared to our public school counterparts, I think you're going to find that there's a personality for everyone that's a good fit at our private schools.
And just like Ashley mentioned in a previous slide, if you really value your faculty member saying, hey, Grace, I see that you're having a really bad day, how can I help? If you're someone that really values that, or you value doing that to other people, you will really find a wonderful 4-year experience at a private institution, because it happens more than you think it does. These faculty members, like for High Point, we're not a very large research institution. We have a lot of research happening on our campus, but our faculty members have done their research years. They've written their books, they've written their articles, but now they just want to help students become great. And you're going to find that at a lot of other private institutions as well.
I think we should wrap up. We hope to see you all at our, I'm going to let Corinne, our facilitator, come back on. We hope to see you all at some of our private sessions, or private school institution sessions. Corinne, you have some housekeeping?
Yes, 1 second. All right, thank you all for joining us today. When you close out the window, there will be a link for a very quick 4-question survey, and we'd greatly appreciate any feedback that you can provide. Also, this is just one of many sessions that will be hosted, so be sure to sign up for any additional sessions at the CACRAO website, which is CACRAO.org. And also in about a week, you'll be able to find these sessions on the CACRAO website as a recording as well. So thank you again for attending, and thank all of our fine ladies for presenting today.